Welcome back. The downtown hotels and restaurants are going to be very full these next few days as the world is pouring in for the North American International Auto Show. Let's set the stage with Paul Eisenstein, publisher of the Detroit Bereau, is with us. Stephanie Brinley, senior analyst with HIS Automotive, is here. We call him our car guy here at Local 4, Guy Gordon, my colleague here at Channel 4, and the auto writer for the Detroit News, Henry Payne. Gang, thanks very much for being here. Henry, I want to start with you because you said on my year-end program we were talking about the big news stories, and your big story of the year for the Detroit area was the success of the automakers.
Well, and then we just got the numbers, 17.5 million, biggest year ever, and you know that recession's fading pretty quick in the mirror. So not only the numbers are up, but this town is putting out really good product.
And Paul, a prediction that this next year is supposed to be even better, maybe another 500,000 vehicles, and yet we've already seen turbulence in the stock market. We're seeing clearly interest rates are jumping up a little bit. Gas is not going to stay this cheap, is it?
Actually, there's a lot of people that believe gas will continue to get cheaper. All the signs are pointing to a situation where gas could continue to tumble. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not predicting it. I wouldn't be surprised if we get down closer to $1.50. And that will continue to push people.
We were sure we were never seeing that again, weren't we?
$2.50 seemed like a dream. And of course, all that is pushing people more and more into the sort of things that make a lot of money. Which
is perfect for setting up this part of the conversation, Stephanie, because what we have is basically two auto worlds going on right now. The real one, where people are buying SUVs and trucks because of the price of $1.50 gas, and the regulatory world that is going to fill this auto show with a lot of vehicles that I'm not sure there's a ton of demand for. And I am, viewers of this program know I'm a devoted fan of the Chevy Volt.
Right.
But I'm not sure, I'm an outlier there, I guess.
Maybe. You know, electric vehicles are still less than 1% of the market right now.
Yeah.
There's a long ways to go before we build up a lot of traction. The Bolt can help in that regard.
The Bolt, yes, right.
Can help in that regard because with some federal tax dollars, it gets to the $30,000 range. That's expensive for a car of that size, but it's not expensive in the range of cars. Average car price is about $32,000, so that keeps it in that reasonable space, and 200 miles of range answers some of those questions. But again, it is a vehicle that is, and a lot of the technology is driven by having to meet regulatory demands going forward, and we're hoping that we come to a conclusion there. We are looking at 17.8 million units for this year, and the other thing that I would add for that, though, too, is we're looking at smaller growth, shorter growth. I mean, last year we had about 6%. Next year it's about 2%. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market plays with that and deals with not having the same level of growth, but still growing.
Guy, we've always had this schism between the real sort of market-driven world and the one that Washington creates.
But never like we have right now.
This seems acute, doesn't it? Yes.
No, this is schizophrenic. And the crazy thing is, it's all the Volt and the Bolt. Necessity wasn't the mother of invention. California was. Okay, I mean, if you look at the California Air Resources Board mandates, if they want to sell cars there, you better come up with a heavy-duty fleet of EVs, because that's the only way you're going to be able to make your 10% there.
Well, there's something interesting going on here, if I can jump in for a second. The Bolt, with the B, starts to address two critical issues, price and range. Pam Fletcher, who heads that program, said that all the data suggests that people start getting interested in electrified vehicles when they have range of 150 miles and when you start getting down to 30,000. Here's one quick fact.
And just let me make it clear, unlike the Volt and other hybrid electrics, the Bolt is purely an electric vehicle, but 200-mile range.
Right. Here's an interesting thing. The battery cells, not the pack, but the cells in that vehicle cost about $145. That still sounds like a lot per kilowatt hour. You know what that cost at the beginning of the decade? About $1,000. So what you're talking about is reducing the cost of the batteries in the car. That vehicle would have had $50,000 worth of batteries in 2010. They now cost about $8,000.
Yeah. It's really one of the rare instances where we saw the cost function really come down as much as the experts predicted 10 years ago.
But Henry,
it still needs to come down.
As you wrote recently, so 10 years from now, the average fuel efficiency across a fleet is supposed to be somewhere over 50 miles a gallon.
55.
Is that crazy?
It is crazy, and so the only way you get there is by building EVs and building hydrogen vehicles, so you can accumulate enough credits in order to get there. I mean, there's not this year. They're supposed to be at 35.5.
Who's going to buy it?
Who's going to buy it?
Wait a second.
That's for two things. 55.
But let me just finish the thought. The only thing that's getting that kind of mileage right now is hybrids, and the tricky part for this industry is that's a lot of capital to burn. You're gonna be making EVs and very expensive fuel cell cars, and it's going to be really tough for small manufacturers like Chrysler, Mazda, these guys, to make those kind of cars.
But let me jump to the other point that I really want us to get to. And Guy, when you came back from the LA Auto Show, you and I had a lot of conversations about the connected car and the future, where we see how significant was this that General Motors is now buying into Lyft?
It's hugely significant, and what it comes down to is they're looking forward to a time when the two-car family is going to have an autonomous car that can take you to work, go home on its own, pick up your spouse or pick up your kids, drive it, then come back. And if you want to do a peer-to-peer rental on that in between when you're not using the car, you can. But right now, you've got a $9,000 transportation cost every year. The car sits 96% of the time, and when you are driving it, you're only using 20% of its capacity because you got 4 empty seats. So the economics of it don't make a lot of sense. And what Lyft and these other folks are saying is, look, what was one of the things we heard, Stephanie, was that we could see 20% of current sales evaporate in the next 10 to 15 years because of ride sharing, peer-to-peer, co-ownership, and also the autonomous car that can
I think that's a tricky number, and we have talked about that. But the thing is, we still have growth. We still have emerging markets. We still have growth in the automotive. So it's not dropping 20% from where we are today. It's maybe some of that growth gets monitored.
But they're losing their growth, and they're saying,
and they can't.
If we can't beat them, we better find a way to join them, because either to be a provider of the automobile that they're going to have out there, or so that we can leverage their algorithms so that we can be the folks that rent the cars.
Well, now, and GM's not alone at this.
Now, I wish I had somebody at the table who was under the age of, say, 25. I have two 19-year-old daughters who don't particularly covet a car. They don't really desire to own one. They love Uber. They love being taken somewhere, but between the cost of insuring a vehicle, between the fact that in any American city, 35% of the traffic is people looking for a place to park, I mean, is this the future?
To this point, my wife and I, when we go down to prom night, the black tie night next week, we're going to take Uber. We did last year, and I take it a lot.
Uber to the auto show, which is
there's a wonderful moment.
Deliciousness.
There's a great irony to this, but the reality is it's an alternate market. Mark Fields said something interesting the other day. If you look at the total value of vehicles sold around the world, it's about $2.5 trillion. Big number, right? And that's mostly the auto industry that makes money, or used cars, dealers and the like. The value of the mobility sector is almost 3 times that, and the auto industry has almost no share of that.
Yeah. Henry, before we get to the break, I'll let you, how acute is this battle between Detroit and Silicon Valley for where the center of this new car universe is going to be?
I think it's really exciting, and actually it benefits this area. I mean, you see Google coming in, building a campus here in Ann Arbor, NVIDIA, the big chip maker, coming in right beside them. I think Silicon Valley and Detroit work together really well and they have to, because every industry is being transformed by digital technology.
It's not going to be us versus them. It's going to be us and them.
Together. Yeah. We come back, I'll let everybody weigh in on what you need to see at the auto show. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.